What's going on, Wolfpack? Your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street, RotoStreetJournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves. Here with your Week 4 risers and fallers. We're going to dive into all the usage you need to know, all the important stats, depth chart movements, injuries, and there was a ton of them on a chaotic Week 4. And how is that going to impact my rest of season big board, risers and fallers, all that good stuff. So come on in, get any of your questions asked. I will get to them all after the broadcast. We'll take about 35, 40 minutes to get through all these risers and fallers. And if you have any questions coming into Monday Night Football, last minute set starts, or anything else trades-wise, let me know. You can always hit it up in the comments if you're catching the replay. And if you like what you're seeing, as always, that thumbs up button does help us get out to more people and would be greatly appreciated. So let's get on in going, Wolfpack, starting at the QB position. And we got to start with Trey Lance. Jimmy Garoppolo suffers a calf injury, and we don't know the quite extent of it yet. He did say it could be multiple weeks. At least it's not season ending. It didn't seem like a very optimistic tone to what Jimmy Garoppolo was saying about that. That now unlocks Trey Lance. We know the absolute cannon arm. He, in fact, threw 2 touchdowns and 157 yards in about a half of action, showing how much upside he will have if and when he does take over as the starter. Lots of potential there for Trey Lance. But the big thing is the leg points. 41 yards on 7 carries on the ground, looking like a bull. That's what we know about him. That's why we've been raving this guy's a must-hold. Make sure you go get Trey Lance if he's sitting out there. And he's now available in 69% of leagues. By far the number one waiver ad if you see yourself with Trey Lance out there. I mean, the most upside, this year's Pat Mahomes potential, and it's coming earlier than expected. The team did say, quote, none of us were ready for this. This is too early for him. This is not part of the plan. So, and this is according to the expert beat writer giving us that info. So it might not be the case. That's just kind of the insider take there that they were not ready for this to happen. But I think all of us fantasy we're ready for this to happen. We cannot wait to see what Trey Lance does when he gets this opportunity here. So we'll find out soon. In addition to him, that's the biggest story probably of every position is Trey Lance taking over. We cannot wait to see what he does. Jalen Hurts, also another reminder of how damn good his arm has gotten. 387 yards, 2 TDs, a 76.2% adjusted completion percentage. That was the big rub with this kid, is he was spraying it all over the yard with no consistency. That's what you want to see, this many completions. You want to see somebody able to go toe-and-toe with Pat Mahomes and just rack up the stats. He also had 47 rushing yards. He's now been well over 20 fantasy points in every single start, even though he's looked like crap in plenty of them. So big weekend for Jalen Hurts. Sam Darnold as well. Konami code Darnold. Who would have thought? 300 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, but most importantly, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 35 yards. And they love running that zone read, it looks like. He's like the new goal-line back, Josh Allen-esque. He faded off. Everybody goes right to the running back, and he just kind of walks right in the end zone. They've done it time and time again, but defensive coordinators are not picking up on it. So Sam Darnold, 33.5 fantasy points, the number 1 QB this last week. Beastly, one of the best value quarterbacks you could have got. But a guy that's still out there in a lot of leagues. So Darnold's still available in 63% of leagues. Sprint out there, go get him if you need a QB. A guy that's out there in 90% of leagues, Taylor Heinicke. This guy is the man. Similar to Jalen Hurts, we've talked about him. 20 or more fantasy points in multiple starts so far. Every start so far this season. And this past week, nearly 30 of them. Quarterback 5, facing off against the Falcons. Another 5 rushes for 43 yards. It sets a nice floor in addition to his 3 touchdowns. 2 of them going to McLaurin. We'll talk about a little bit later. But you got to love Taylor Heinicke moving forward. Much more upside over most of those late-round guys. But one of those late-round guys I was dead wrong about. I can't believe how good this guy is playing, at least fantasy-wise. And they get their first win of the week. That's Daniel Jones. 402 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception in the Giants game. But that 402 yards is wild for this guy. He also does have the rushing upside. Didn't have a ton this last week, 27 yards on the ground. But he's looking pretty damn good. And this was with nobody to throw to. No Sterling Shepard, no Slayton. We saw Galladay step up. We'll talk about that receiving core when we get to wide receivers. But Danny Jones is getting it done. He looks like a different quarterback than these past 2 years. Still makes a handful of dumb mistakes every game. Still not bullish on the Giants as a whole team. But Daniel Jones in fantasy, not bad. Justin Fields as well. 215, 0 touchdowns and a pick. Mediocre day through the air. Just 3 carries for 9 yards on the ground. It's not happening, at least not under this Nagy regime. I think the guy made some lights-out throws, looked very solid. The completion percentage obviously looks nice. But until we get a game plan that's not completely conservative and holding this guy in, it's not worth the roster spot, in my opinion. Certainly, we want Trey Lance over him in fantasy. And one faller at quarterback, another one, Ben Roethlisberger. He's been the quarterback 28, quarterback 24, 24, and 26 on the season. Tough year for Mr. Roethlisberger. Awful stuff for the guy. But nobody that people are still holding on to him. The only reason I put him on here is people are still holding on to him, and I don't understand why. Awesome to see some of you guys getting in there, getting some of your questions. I know Facebook's out today, so that's definitely creating less views than typical. So if you guys don't mind sharing this out and getting us out to more people, thumbs up, helping us get to more, it would mean the world. And again, any questions you guys have would be great. Cordarrelle Patterson. What a story this guy's become. 6 carries, 34 yards, 5 catches, 82 receiving yards, and not 1, not 2, 3 receiving touchdowns, and 11.2 ADOT. Can anybody argue about this anymore? The guy is so legit. And what's crazy about this, and you can kind of take this as a plus or a minus, he's not playing a ton of snaps. I mean, he's only 30% of the snaps, 29% routes. That's garbage. 12% targets, mediocre. Targets per route, 36%, not great. It's not like he's this high usage guy. He's just doing so much damage with everything he says. So his lowest running back share, 23.1%, where he's averaging 35%. I'm not worried about the fact, though. Yes, it's concerning that he's not seeing the amount of work this type of production should dictate. But then that's also goes to say, well, if the coin flips, what if the team is finally like, what are we doing with Mike Davis? He doesn't bring nearly the explosiveness as Patterson. We have them both on the field at the same time anyways. I mean, this guy's clearly their best offensive weapon. He's crushing it. We told you about him in week 1. He continues to climb. Absolutely love Cordarrelle Patterson. James Robinson exploding into my top 15 running backs, right behind DeAndre Swift right now. So right in that low-end RB1 conversation after going 78 yards and 2 TDs and just looking damn good. Like he's passing. He's always passed the eyeball test. It's just nice to see Urban Meyer finally give him the work he so clearly deserves. He's the complete focal point. I guess the snaps still aren't 100% there. They still had Dare working in, even though Carlos Hyde was out. But, man, at the stripe, powerful, 2 goal line touchdowns. Still getting, in last couple years, 2 games ago, he saw 9 targets. So, I mean, he's involved as a pass catcher, even if they get behind. When they get up, he's pounding it in there in the red zone. Back to his 3-down horse roll. High-end RB2, low-end RB1 at, worst. Zeke Elliott, back. 20 carries, 143 and a TD, 112 of his yards coming after contact. What an absolute beast. And this is going against a Panthers team that hadn't allowed 25 rushing yards to any player. But that also, facing the Saints, Texans, Jets, not really the most prolific of rushing offenses there. The guy scored his first touchdown to get him up 7-0. Bam. He's just a monster. He just looks like all that hype about Zeke being in better shape, zipping through the hole, looking better. It's coming to fruition. And yes, Pollard's still involved. 10 carries. The guy is still going to be there. But it doesn't matter when Zeke is looking this clear cut. I'm the start. 20 carries for the guy. 140. It's just Zeke of old. This is maybe the best form of Zeke we've seen in terms of his ability. And it's nice to see the Cowboys. When they get up, they're going to pound it. It's not that week 1. I think a lot of people freaked out. It was the ultimate buy low. I tried to get him, and unfortunately, most people in my leagues, recognize that this guy was buying as low as you could possibly do. But no, he has risen completely. A guy going even ahead of him, though, Saquon Barkley, 13 carries, 52 yards, 4.0 per clip. Touchdown on the ground, though. Not bad. What it was, though, is the 5 receptions, 74 yards, another touchdown. And it was just the way he looked, jump cutting all over the field, zipping and zagging, just Saquon of old. This is the guy that can handle 18 to 25 touches a game. That can be the focal point of your receiving game. 54-yard reception. He's looking great. He is back. Saquon's there. He's right back into my top 6 overall. I've been telling you guys to buy low on this guy for weeks. Your window is closed, but still go get him if you can at any point. Damien Harris, maybe a riser. A horrible game, awful effort. 2 passes for 30 yards was the highlight. He had negative rushing yards on his 4 carries on only 7 run plays the entire freaking night. And that's how it happens when you face the Bucs. I mean, that's the game script we've seen over and over on teams facing Tampa Bay. It makes sense. Why would he be a potential up, though? Well, 1, J.J. Taylor fumbled away any shot he may have had at being the James White role. 2, Damien Harris participated in the most routes of everybody, 36% for him. Yes, Bolden did have the 6 catches, 51 yards, whereas Harris only 2 catches for 30. but he ran 17 routes. That was the most routes of any running back on the team. It's the most he's ever run in his career. Sure, he has this like reputation as an early down banger. He can catch, though. Harris has legitimate pass catching chops. That's why we loved him coming out of Alabama there. Big fan of this game for him, even though the stats, the box score wasn't there, and hopefully he was on your bench. We told you to bench him in every league. It still was pretty wild. Now, we have Alvin Kamara in here just to reemphasize that 26 carries. He's now set career highs in back-to-back weeks. Guys getting force-fed as a runner. The unfortunate thing is, where are the targets? Where's the love in the receiving game? 2.8.4 times more valuable. 2.84 times is a target than a carry. And that's why Kamara has been one of the most insane players. So while it's lovely to see him at an 80% snap clip, to see him at a 90% rushing share load, 8 avoided tackles, I mean, it was slippery as ever, doing more work ever as a runner in his career, he's regressed infinitely as a receiver. Not him, just the usage has. And that sucks. You thought Jameis might be a positive for him. We all did. And it doesn't end up being the case. Case in point, Derrick Henry has 15 targets. That's 14. That's a target more than the 14 Alvin Kamara has seen on the season. And speaking of Derrick Henry, still locked in at my number 1 overall. So there's not really only one spot to go is downward, and he's not going downward. He's cementing himself at the top there. 33 attempts, 157 and a TD, 5 explosive runs, just steamrolling this Jets defense. Also has 2 catches for 20 yards. But the thing is, he's ranking top, 15 in a ton of receiving categories, routes run and yards per route run and yards after the catch. I mean, Henry is a monster. This novel concept. Let's get this freak into space more often. Granted, Jeremy McNichols did also see 12 targets, so it's not like Henry has it completely on lockdown. They are tossing a running back in there. McNichols, 74 yards, 11 yards on his 1 carry. He's going to be nibbling at the cheese a little bit. I think we're going to see Henry's targets come down. They're going to realize we cannot give this guy 50 touches a week. But, man, it's sexy to see him finally used this way. Again, more targets than Kamara on the season. Taylor, a tale of 2 games, looking like himself. Jonathan Taylor, 103 yards and a TD, 70 of them coming after contact. Beautiful stuff. 3 catches and 11 receiving yards. Nyheim Hines fumbling, getting tossed out of the game for pretty much that point on. And yet still, Taylor saw just 57.1% of the running back rush share. So as good as this seemed, is like a great bounce back effort. And I still think this is more representative of what we're going to see moving forward. Can't be that comforted that it wasn't like an 80% after that awful fumble by Hines. So interesting to see nonetheless. DeAndre Swift wanted to make a quick note. 8 catches, 8 carries, 16 yards. Gross. 4 receptions, 33. Not great. But he did run 34 pass routes as compared to 5 for Jamaal Williams. Conversely, Jamaal Williams also saw 14 carries. He also got 0 targets. So it's nice to see, as we talk about targets being 2.84 more times valuable than a carry, given their expected fantasy points per each. It's nice to see this guy running nearly all the routes, monopolizing that. I think it's only a matter of time before he takes those carries from Williams as well. So moving forward now to some fallers. Miles Sanders. Monday Night Football, he had only 2 carries, 3 receptions. And then he follows that up with 13 yards on 7 carries and another 3 catches. Just abysmal usage while watching Kenneth Gainwell gain 3 carries, 31 yards, 6 catches on 8 targets, 58 yards, outplaying, out-touching, doing everything. Almost 100 yards for Gainwell, only 47 for Miles Sanders. This is a panic button, folks. I am definitely nervous for Miles Sanders moving forward. Not good at all. Another big faller. Here, these are my 2 running backs in my main league. Love to hear it. Chris Carson. 13 carries for 30 yards. Whoo. That was awful. Even worse, though, than this awful performance was 10 carries for 44 and a touchdown going to Alex Collins. Alex Collins. Oh, boy. We see 14 opportunities for Chris Carson, 12 for Collins, 1 for Travis Homer, 45% share snaps for Carson. He was right around 70 to 80% of the workload of the snaps before this week. This is scary. This is not what you wanted to see from this guy. Huge bump down the big board coming for Chris Carson, for Miles Sanders. But big riser, Chase Edmonds, 12 carries, 120. Would rather have him over either of those guys. 4 receptions, 19 yards. And yes, Connor, 2 touchdowns, annoying as all hell. 50 yards on 18 carries, annoying as all hell, all that work going to him. But what I really love, and we talk about how valuable targets are, can we keep re-emphasizing that for you folks? 12.5% target share for Edmonds, then 14.7%, then 23.5%, and 17.2%. He's 3rd right now in target share among all running backs, behind only DeAndre Swift and Najee Harris. You love that for Chase Edmonds moving forward. The clear-cut, more explosive back. Yeah, the goal line vulture is annoying. It could be a true top 5 back if Connor could just leave. But we'll take what we can get. Let's not be too picky here. This awful running back position. Najee Harris rushes 15 times. Speaking of the devil, 15 carries, 62 yards, and a TD. Also seeing 6 catches on 7 targets. Another classic 22 backfield touches going to him. Insane. He's now seeing 90% of their running back rushes. Only Joe Mixon and Derrick Henry have done that as well. Great company to be mentioned along. Definitely a low end, maybe even mid-range RB2. If only Big Ben was making this offense a little more explosive, creating a little more threat, I'd be even more intrigued. Perhaps the single biggest riser, though, at the running back position, Mr. Darrell Henderson comes back from an injury, and what do we see? Not timeshare, right? Maybe Sony did that. No. And we said this on the pregame show, raved about him, told you guys to use him. 90% snap rate for Darrell Henderson to 10% for Sony Michel. 20 touches for Darrell Henderson, 20 opportunities rather, 3 for Sony Michel. Henderson is the number 1 running back here, and by a mile. He's an RB1 in fantasy. Been the RB16, RB11, RB14, so like quality high-end RB2 numbers every single time he's been out there. He ran 91% of the routes on the pass plays. He saw 90% of the snaps, 67% of the rush attempts, 13% of the targets, 89% of the down and distance work, short down and distance. So he's the goal line guy too. And long down distance, 92%. He's every down back. That's all stats to emphasize that Darrell Henderson is the guy here. He turned it into 89 yards on the ground, 27 through the air on 5 catches. Every down back that's going to get all the work. He should be ranked as such immediately into my top 17 running backs the rest of the season, above a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who most would probably assume is a riser, right? Another 100 yards, back-to-back weeks, 100 yards, looking great. But he's now right on the fringe of a 50-50 split with Darrell Williams. I don't know why. He keeps looking better and better, and maybe that's what he needs to not be an every down guy. So he has more efficiency, right? He scored a receiving touchdown, too. Looked great. 102 yards, 12 yards through the air as well in a TD. Great final stats for Helaire. But the fact that Williams also had 10 carries, 42 yards in a TD, 2 catches for 16 yards is annoying as all hell. On 52% of the snaps, 4 CEH, 36 going to Darrell Williams, and then a handful, 12, going to Jerick McKinnon. 50% snap player. So it's like a mixed bag here for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Looking good, more efficient, but just annoying stuff there. A.J. Dillon, not really a big riser or faller, but seeing 15 carries for 81 yards reminds you if anything happens to Aaron Jones, this guy's going to go berserk. Saw him get dropped by a lot of teams. He's a must-hold, must-hold, similar to Madison. Just one of those guys, you eat the bench spot all year, and you don't complain about it. Jones, way less efficient, also seeing 15 carries for 48 yards. So Dillon, the much better runner, but Jones did haul in 3 catches for 51 yards as well. No scores. So after a 4 touchdown day just a couple of weeks ago, touchdown the week before, that streak ends. But he's a beast. Jones is still in my top 5 overall. This offense is back to the efficient machine Green Bay offense that we've known these last couple of years. Leonard Fournette, big riser as well. 20 carries to 6 for Rojo, 91 yards, 4 avoided tackles, 3 catches, 57 yards. That's the rub there. No Gio Bernard. He took over as the every down focal point, as we expected. Now, granted, Ronald Jones did get the touchdown, 6 carries for 25 yards, but you look at it, 82% of snaps going to Leonard Fournette, 17%. Ronald Jones, every down back in every sense of the word. 20 carries for Fournette, 6 for Jones, 5 targets to 0 for Jones. It's everything you want for Leonard Fournette. Every week starter, every time that Gio Bernard is out. When he comes back, and you got 3-headed nightmare, good to avoid at that point. Latavius Murray, 18 carries, 59 yards, 1 TD, 51 yards after contact. All solid, but the most important note was Tyson Williams being the starter for 3 straight weeks, well over 50% of the snaps and touches for 3 weeks, is just a healthy scratch. Murray became like a de facto workhorse here, almost like a bell cow in a way. Wasn't all that effective, but did find the end zone, and that type of volume is going to be usable moving forward. 78.3% of the running back rushes going to him. That's by far the highest for a raving back all season. Maybe this juggernaut, this just disgusting, awful committee is finally figured out. A couple more just quick notes for the running backs. 31 of 61 snaps going to Michael Carter. So over half the snaps, 13 carries went to Ty Johnson. Trevin Coleman. Oh, no, he had 13 carries, rather. Ty Johnson only had 3. Tevin Coleman had 4. So he was the clear primary runner here for the Jets. And he looks pretty good with that work he's getting there. I like Michael Carter. He's also out there in 49% of the leagues. One of the rare running backs getting meaningful work out there in your waiver wires. Check it out. Running back getting non-meaningful work, maybe cuttable. And we said this on a podcast, so hopefully you listen. He was my lower running back of the week. Myles Gaskin. 2 carries, 3 yards. Oh, boy. 8 carries for for Malcolm Brown. 3 rushes for Salvin Ahmed. So he was the lowest carrier on this ball club. Awful stuff. And it's been so inconsistent all year. He was leading the backfield in routes first 3 weeks. He only ran 1 route on 35 pass plays and no targets. Way too unpredictable, potentially cuttable. Awful stuff for Myles Gaskin, who even if he was running routes, Jalen Wall has become the short yardage guy here. Chuba Hubbard, mediocre. Not nearly the pass catcher that Christian McCaffrey was, not even used like it. Not even pretend Mike Davis type of workload of last year. He did see 81.3% of the rushes. Great. But only 5.1% of the targets. Not so great. He was in for only 21% of the routes, whereas Rodney Smith saw 44%, whereas Freeman saw 13%. So he's going to be an okay flex moving forward, this Chuba Hubbard guy. Not a clear-cut, locked-in Christian McCaffrey replacement. And last but not least, Trey Sermon seeing 18 carries for 89 yards. Looks nice. But that was also without Eli Mitchell there. This is against the easiest run D in the league, Seahawks. You can sell him for anything right now. I think that value is going to only come down. Wolfpack, we're going to now move on to the wide receivers. But again, if you don't mind, I know we're not on Facebook tonight because of all these power outages, whatever the hell's going on. So give us a like, give us a thumbs up, a share, a retweet, get us out to more people. It would really help us out, me and the world. All righty. Refueled and back for action. Wide receiver, risers, fallers, any stats you need to know. DJ Moore, 8 catches, 113 yards, 2 TDs, 30% threat rate. The wide receiver 1 of the week. What else needs to be said? He has seen 30.7% of their season-long targets. Robbie Anderson's at 15.7, Terrace Marshall, 12. It's a hog. It's an absolute definition of a target hog, and there's no reason for him not to be the way he is performing. He's now up to, I believe, the wide receiver 3 on the season in fantasy. He's going to be right in my top 7 moving forward. If we were redrafting today, he'd probably go, round 2? Awesome stuff from DJ Moore. This was the breakout I think many of us expected last year. For whatever reason, him and Bridgewater didn't click. This is what we were expecting. I wish I stayed on the train and stayed the course because he is just absolutely murdering it. We're my favorite buy lows right now. Stefon Diggs. Buy low. You just had 7 catches and 114 yards and 4 explosive plays, Wolf. How am I going to get low? Because I think Stefon Diggs is worth far more than even that. Because he still hasn't found the end zone. Those days are coming. Don't you worry. He's seen 28, 27, 23, and now 33% target share across his 4 weeks. He is still very much elite. Not quite as elite as Tyreek Hill, 11 catches, 186 yards, and 3 TDs. 2 dud weeks. Hopefully he had somehow that opened a buying window. I don't think anyone's stupid enough to sell him, but if it did, I hope he went and got him because he just murdered it. As we mentioned, Terry McLaurin, 123 yards, 2 TDs, 35.1% threat rate on 6 catches. Love to see it. Taylor Heinicke loves the guy. It's nice to see he can still be a top 3 weekly receiver, even with crap like Taylor Heinicke. Still the rock. Prediction not crap, as we said at the beginning. I really like this Taylor Heinicke kid. Deebo Samuel, though, 8 catches, 156, 2 TDs. One of them coming from Mr. Trey Lance himself. Only Cooper Kupp joins Deebo Samuel as a wide receiver who's seen 25% target share in all 4 games. The clear-cut alpha, one of the best picks you could have made in fantasy as like a round 6er. Whew, beautiful stuff. Meanwhile, Brandon Ayuk kind of crapping himself. 1 catch, 15 yards, 3 targets, 60-ish% route participation. Everything that looked great last week, it's not going to ever tilt back to Deebo's the alpha. Kittle also saw 11 targets. Didn't do a whole ton with him. Deebo. He's your guy. What an absolute monster he is. Marquise Brown, wide receiver 13 in fantasy, probably would be number 5 in fantasy points on the year had he not dropped 3 balls last week. Because yet another 19-plus fantasy point performance. He's had 19 or more in 3 of his 4 games and would have had 35 in the one that he didn't. Insane. 91 yards and a TD, a beautiful TD grab. Will this continue when Bateman comes back? He might eat a few targets, but he's doing this, Marquise Brown, on 5 targets this last week. oh, that's unsustainable to do this in such low volume. You can't chase that, right? You should sell it now. This is why you buy him. He's efficient on what he does. And he's going to remain efficient on what he does. Bateman plays a different role than him. I would be buying. I think anyone selling him, go sprint out and go get him, in my opinion. Nice to see Deontay Johnson return for 13 targets, right where he left off. 9 catches, 92 yards. TD, 3 avoided tackles, just looking like a beast after the catch. As bad as Big Ben is, Deontay remains his guy. It's just clear as day. Whereas Juju on the opposite end, 2 catches, 11 yards with no Claypool. Oh, boy. 8 targets. Yeah, you can probably cut Juju at this point. No need to hang on to him. No upside, no ceiling. This would have been a ceiling game to have Claypool removed. Nice ceiling. 2 catches, 11 yards. Let's move the Giants receivers. You see Kenny Galladay go for 6 catches, 116 yards, 17.5 average depth of target. You love to see that. The guy is getting deep, averaging. You see him rounding into form here. 3.35 yards of separation. Oh, my goodness. That is pretty damn impressive, especially considering week 1 is 0.93. He missed all summer with his hamstring. It took a while for him to get going. He looks fully healthy. He's going to get a big bump in the rankings, especially if Sterling Shepard's injury projects to linger. Meanwhile, Kadarius Toney, not bad. Seeing 25% target share, looking pretty explosive. No final stats of note that were like, oh, go get this guy, but involved. And good to see the guy involved. Showed some speed as to why he was like a first rounder while he was out there for a bit. Corey Davis, 4 catches, 111 TD, 19.9 average depth of target. Love to see the deep ball for him. Revenge game. Loved it. He was in my DraftKings. Big fan of Corey Davis. Told a lot of people to start him, and he came through. But should you be worried that Jamison Crowder, 32.1% threat rate, 7 catches, 61 yards, and a score? I'm not worried for Davis. I am worried for Elijah Moore, who didn't play. So, Crowder, take his with a grain of salt, I guess. But I'd be going and getting this guy. I would go get Crowder, no doubt. He could be an every week fantasy starter. He was a top 4 wide receiver for a lot of last year before he got hurt. Crowder looking great. Elijah Moore, if you haven't cut him already, cut him now. Devonta Smith, first 100-yard career outing. Almost had 100 yards in the first half, 84 yards and 5 catches in the first half. Ultimately finished with 7 catches, 122 yards on 10 targets. Playing 80 to 90% of snaps in the first 2 games. Now 100% snap player. Good to see this guy coming into his own. At least 6 targets in every game, but this was the one, 10 targets. This was his kind of Mona Lisa so far this year. Love to see Devonta Smith. I think it's only pointing upward with a extremely, extremely pass-happy offense and a very easy schedule popping up soon. Darnell Mooney, 5 catches, 125 yards. Pretty much all of Justin Fields' yards. 215 of it. Only 125, well over half his yards, 18 yards. Average depth of target. Great stuff. And he's also now available in a ton of leagues. A lot of people cutting him after how bad Fields looked. I cut him in a league. It hurts. It was a kick to the nuts to watch this. But Fields is his guy. Fields was roping it to him throughout the night. Meanwhile, Allen Robinson still sucked. Let's look at the target shares. 41.2% for Mooney, 17.7% for Robinson. Robinson has not been a top 40 receiver yet this year. His 3 catches this week, pathetic. Robinson, big faller. Mooney, big riser. Jacoby Myers, 8 catches, 11 targets. Just another ho-hum, double-digit target day, 70 yards. No end zone, of course not. He's never going to score. Still, just the slot receiver role is so valuable here. And 45 yards passing, a little trickery, higher passer rating than Brady in this one. Good stuff, though, from Jacoby Myers. Van Jefferson, the thorn in Robert Woods' side, has seen a 13.4% target share, 18.7% for Robert Woods. Van Jefferson's putting up 11.9 PPR points per game despite seeing that lower target share, compared to 11.5 for Robert Woods. That's bad. Woods did score, so I'm not sitting here saying we got to dump all over him. But Van Jefferson paced the Rams in receptions with 6 yards, 90, and scored the touchdown. His playing time continues to rise. You had Deshaun Jackson, a good bet for, to eat into the deep ball looks every now and again. But Van Jefferson should be owned at this point. No doubt about it. Kupp did lead the league with 13 targets, but he struggled on him with only 5 catches. Wanted to mention Odell Beckham. He looked solid. So if your box score reading, you see 2 catches for 27 yards, that might concern you. But he should have had an 80-yard wild bomb touchdown, which probably would have made me a lot richer man. One on DraftKings, but he was like the low point of my lineups. So far, the pluses, he's looking good. He's seen, a ton of targets, 16 targets in his first 2 games. The negatives, Baker Mayfield looked like crap, and he's tied to a Baker Mayfield offense. So that's no good. No bueno. Randall Cobb will be one of the top waiver wire pickups this week. 5 catches, 69 yards, and 2 scores. Matthew Schneidman of The Athletic saying Cobb could unlock Green Bay's offense. Ooh, nothing like the Randall Cobb skeleton key, folks. But I'll give it to him. The guy was making plays, looking good after the catch, like solid stuff here. The thing here is he played only 46% of the snaps. So he put up this monster stats on low snap totals. Over the first 3 weeks, it's a big increase from what he had, but still, Adams and obviously Adams seeing more work, but Allen Lazard also playing more snaps. So worth noting there as well. Nick Westbrook, I wrote about him before the games. Nothing crazy here. Snaps, 77. Routes, 46. Both led the Titans receivers, but didn't do much. 8 in targets, second, but again, nothing. 50 on yards. Nothing. Useless. AJ Green and Christian Kirk. Oh, boy, Kirk. Thanks for getting to my flex, baby. 1 catch for 5 yards. Ooh. Meanwhile, AJ Green, 5 catches, 67 and a TD. That's a lot better. Oh, I dropped Cordarrelle Patterson for Christian Kirk in week 1. I'm stupid. I just wanted to throw that one out there. The other thing, too, to note, though, is D-Hop's having his upside kind of sapped away at. 4 catches, 67 yards, 7 targets. That's it. That's the most yards he's had since week 1. He's been pretty limited, given how much his offense spreads it around. It's a great real-life offense, fantasy-wise. 100% snaps, route rate for Hopkins, and still only 67 yards. 88% for Kirk, 93% for AJ Green. He's probably the biggest riser here. 5 catches, 67 yards, and a TD. It's going to be a nightmare, though. And let's get to a few quick tight ends, and then to all your questions. We got 16 so far, guys. Get a bunch more in there. Give me that thumbs up. We'll get to your stuff momentarily. Dawson Knox, probably my biggest story in the tight end position. 37 yards, 2 TDs on 5 catches, running a route on 79% of the snaps. You'll love to see that for Dawson Knox. Great stuff. More routes than Cole Beasley and Gabe Davis. He's a big part here. He's now scored in 3 or 4 weeks. Great stuff. Multiple touchdowns on the season. Second straight game with 5 or more targets. He's cooking. He is absolutely cooking right now. You know who else is cooking? Dalton Schultz. 36.4% target share this past week. Ran 23 routes compared to just 10 for Blake Jarwin. I thought it was going to be cheese nibble all year. Schultz has really taken a step forward. Now, Jarwin did catch a touchdown, but this is Dalton Schultz's game. 23 targets and 20 catches across his last 2 games. And yeah, the Cowboys, the defense isn't great. I mean, the defense is solid, keeping it from these shootout scenarios that we used to love. We thought, Tampa Bay. But Schultz is going to be, at least until Michael Gallup's back, I think a top 10 weekly guy. Who's not? Evan Ingram. Played 12 personnel, 11 personnel, and only caught 5 passes for 27 yards. Like, no other guys to compete with, and that's the best he could do. It was nice to see the varied usage, but I want nothing to do with him. And then 2 more guys, Cameron Brate playing nearly every snap without Rob Gronkowski. He was the receiving tight end too. Why over O.J. Howard? I don't know. He was playing the blocking role. And yeah, Brate only 2 catches for 29 yards, but 3rd most targets on the Bucs. That was a tough game overall for Brady. I think Brate could have some streaming appeal moving forward, as does Max Williams. 5 catches on 5 targets, 66 and a TD. He's heating up. He had 7 catches for 94 yards just 2 weeks ago. I mean, not bad. He's averaged 5 targets a week since week 1. Interesting stuff. In terms of injuries, David Montgomery suffered a knee injury. They don't think it's anything too serious. He avoided a torn ACL. The MRI did not show anything that's going to ruin his year, but he could miss some weeks. So Damien Williams should be the next man up, although he also hurt his quad late in the game. So Khalil Herbert, maybe the next man up. We don't know quite yet, but make sure you're tracking that for David Montgomery. He did, pray the tweet and probably prayed, but he tweeted, like, oh, God is an awesome God, because it must not be anything too serious. We'll let you know when we do know the official word on that. Meanwhile, Joe Mixon getting hurt, low-grade ankle sprain. It's considered week to week. Well, remember, he was week to week last year before never returning again. Samaje Perine was the guy that slotted right in and would be the immediate handcuff. I think Evans also gained some receiving appeal. But 90% of the rushing work has gone to Mixon so far this year. It'll be a big change to this offense. And honestly, facing the Packers next week, I wouldn't be surprised to see them just unload with Burrow 45 to 60 times next week, which would stray from their philosophy so far. Dalvin Cook, he played, but he saw less work than Madison. Oh, boy. 2 of the 11 third quarter snaps. And he returned in the fourth quarter for the majority of it, but if he's not healthy, just rest the guy. Let Madison do his thing. Meanwhile, Jimmy Garoppolo, as we mentioned at the top with Trey Lance, he told that he hopes it's just a couple of weeks or something. That doesn't sound that promising. Did not come back in the second half. As we said, nobody was ready for Trey Lance to take over. This was not the plan, said Kawakami, the athletic beat writer there. But he looked okay. I mean, well enough. 41 rushing yards, 157 passing, and 2 TDs, all in a half. Like that's why you draft this guy. He would have put up nearly 400 total yards of offense and multiple TDs. 20.4 points in one half of action. This is why he was a stash. This is why he's a cheat code. DJ Chark goes to the injured reserve, done for the year, actually. Cardove with a broken ankle. He's done. Big news, though, for Laviska Shenault. He did have 99 yards, went deep, 6 catches. That A-Dot got jacked up this year. 52 coming on that bomb. They have to use him on more deep bombs without Chark. He was dropped in a ton of leagues. Go look out there for Laviska Shenault. I'm guilty of dropping him in a shallow league myself. Logan Thomas hurt his hamstring, was ruled out immediately. Probably the initial reaction is he's going to miss 1 to 3 weeks. Maybe Ricky Seals-Jones, 6'5", 250 beast. Could be a waiver wire target. He ran the second most targets for Taylor Heinicke this last week. 2 catches for 19 yards. Didn't do a whole lot with him, but still, interesting guy. Bridgewater had a concussion, leading us to the Drew Lock shitstorm. As if you own anybody from the Broncos, it was very clear how much more that this offense moves without them, with Teddy Bridgewater at the helm. Everybody gets a big downgrade. Should it be Drew Lock moving forward? Will Fuller, another injury. Finger injury this time, week to week. Whoa. You can cut him at this point. Like, what are we holding out for? Useless. Just a roster spot at this point. Last but not least, one of the best handcuffs in fantasy football, at least I thought, was Tony Jones. He had the 3rd highest grade among running backs heading into the week. He was playing really well in small samples. 3 carries, 3 targets early, looking like it's like, okay, this guy's going to have his role now. And then gets carted off the field with a right leg injury. It looks like Dwayne Washington would be the handcuff, but at this point, all that matters here is that Alvin Kamara might see even more carries and targets. And he's already a complete and utter workhorse. And that's all we got, folks. Let me know if I missed anybody else you want to talk about. Hit me up as well. Get to all these questions you got. Thumbs up button does always help us get out to more people. Please let me know. Swift, OBJ, Kelsey, A-Rob, all. Oh, we're talking to Kevin Rice here. Swift, OBJ, Kelsey, A-Rob, all teabagged me this week. What a life. That's, 4 guys that you would think would be monsters coming into the year, other than maybe OBJ, but past monster. And all this slapping all over you, Kevin. Sorry to hear it. I had a tough week in a few leagues myself. 0-3 this week, blowing up my redraft team already. A-Rob for Marvin Jones, Robbie Anderson. Yeah, get some guys, but go. Blow it up. You need to send a message to the locker room, Schneider. It's time. Trade Gibson and Kirk for Najee Harris, half PPR. I would probably pull that trigger. The volume's very secure. I do like Gibson a lot, though, so I don't know. It's close, William, but yeah, I'd probably do that. Najee has just such secure volume. Should I trade Deebo for Godwin and Pitts or Deebo for Kittle and OBJ? I don't know if I want to trade Deebo for either, but if I was going to do one, it'd probably be Kittle and OBJ. I don't believe in Pitts at all. I'm not a Pitts guy. I'm done with that. Should I drop McKissick, Carter, or Gaskin for Gainwell? Half PPR. Any of the 3, yeah. I would say my first drop would probably be, really honestly, is Gaskin if you look at the numbers. He might, I kind of want to see this shake out because he was so damn good last year, William, but you could drop any of them. I'd probably cut McKissick first, but we'll see. Same beat writers had no idea what was going on there. Yeah, right? Exactly. Talking about Trey Lance. They have no idea what anything's going on there. Should I drop Rondale for Kirk or Green? I would for Green, I think, is the preferred option at this point. Kirk has some real good weekly juice, but yeah, Rondale, very low participation. Too bad to see. Kendrick Bourne worth a look with his targets. Drop someone like Rondale or Patrick. I wouldn't drop Patrick. Maybe Rondale, but I think Rondale's just too explosive a talent to drop for Kendrick Bourne. I'm not buying into that. It's going to be tough every week to figure out. Who do you like rest of the season? Sanders, Mooney, or Shenault? Probably Shenault, Broderick. I really like all those guys, though. I'd probably rank them Shenault, then Sanders, then Mooney. Sanders being the safest, shockingly. Your thoughts on trading Kamara for Kelsey? I have Mixon, CEH, Henderson, and Chuba. Pitts is disappointed. Yeah, Pitts has been one of the most disappointing players. Muhammad, great to see you too. I'd probably do that. Yeah. I know Kelsey's come off a disappointing week, but yeah. Let's see what Mixon's injury is, though. Like, if it's going to linger, then maybe not. But yeah, I'd probably do that. William G, any improvements? You have Allen, Hill, Woods, Eckler, Gibson, Knox, Sutton. On the bench, Kirk, Rondale, Carter, Gaskin, McKissick. I mean, you're set with Eckler and Gibson at running back. Knox is a great streaming tight end at this point. I think it's receivers behind Tyreek Hill. It's like Robert Woods sucks. Sutton, inconsistent. Can you package any of these guys up and try to get an upgrade there? That's what I'd be looking for, receiver upgrade. Charlie Zigman. Trade away Woods and Corey Davis for AJB. I don't know that I want to sprint to go get AJB. Maybe you're buying low, but it seems like a situation I don't want. I'm not opposed to moving Woods and Corey Davis. I like where your head's at, especially with Woods. Get rid of him. But I don't know that AJB is a situation I'm trying to sprint towards. I don't think it is. You worried about Kamara at all? I'm not worried because he's seeing so much rushing work. But why is he not seeing receiving work? That's what he makes his money off of, AK. I think he'll still finish top 10, but top 5 without receiving work is going to be tough for a guy that's been his bread and butter. Likes people, says Toon. Exactly. Likes. Get him on up. Get us out to more people. It'd be much appreciated. Benching Miles Sanders, please do. Flexed him over Patterson and Marquise. Oh, Sarah, that's tough. That's tough, especially Patterson with 30 points. Oh, there's no way to sugarcoat that one, Sarah Riley. That's a tough one. That trade where I gave her Woods, Deebo, Melvin Gordon for Hopkins, OBJ is hurting way worse. Yeah, that does hurt. I think this was one that I said I like it, but it's not like a smash. Hopkins is still the best player there, but Deebo's looking damn close. Trey Lance taking over, Aladdin. That's the best. That is the best. I'm into it. I had Mitchell, Sermon, Mike Davis taking up space. Yeah, useless. Gainwell, Murray on waivers. Would you keep Sermon and pick up Gainwell and Murray? I think you could probably drop Davis at this point, honestly. I'd rather have those guys. I don't know what to make of the 49ers, though. Like, Mitchell was the guy before he went down. So I'm hesitant to just say go drop Mitchell. It's a tough situation. And it's not like Gainwell and Murray are like you have to go get him, but I'd drop Davis for one of them. And then I'd go for Gainwell first, I think. Trade Cook and Lamb, Godwin for Henry, Lockett, and Henderson. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd probably move Godwin before I'd move Lamb, too. But, yeah, I think you're talking about Derrick Henry, right, James? And, yes, he's the number one player here. And you're getting Lockett and Henderson. Henderson, I love. Oh, yeah, I do that. Pick up Jacoby Myers, Galladay, Shenault, Juju, or AJ Green. I go Jacoby Myers there in full PPR at least. Half PPR, probably the same. And then I would go for Galladay. I'd go the exact order you have them other than Juju being the last. Great to see you too, man. CH over Hubbard. Good. I'm glad you went with it. Great stream tonight. Bad luck with Facebook. Yeah, who knows what happened there. But, hey, appreciate you being here, Kevin Rice. It's good to see you, man. It's been a minute. If you're still in the North Shore, let's get together soon. Crunchy or smooth peanut butter. I'm a smooth guy, Marshall Sinclair. I get the appeal of the crunch, but not for me. I don't want the little chunks. I want the smooth. Put it with some peanut butter and fluff, baby. Ooh. Trading my league today. A.J. Brown, James Robinson for CMC. Tried getting on trade for CMC, but the Browns weak hammy over my trade. Yeah, weird. That's not a bad. That guy got robbed. Give me CMC for those two all day. I wish you came with something better than that, Mike Schneider. You should have been able to. All righty, folks. RoseReedJournal.com. We breed and feed you fancy wolves. Here's also with the Fantasy Fullback Dive podcast. If you can't catch the live stream on YouTube one day and you want to hear the audio, Fantasy Fullback Dive, we pave your path to 2021 titles. You can catch the audio the next day. Thank you so much for being here and tuning in with me. I'm the Wolf, at Rose Street Wolf on Twitter. If you ever want to hit me up. In a world full of fancy sheep, guys, likes and subs are still appreciated too. Be that wolf. Later, guys.